Hi, I'm Kirsten, the Ectopic Pregnancy Support Podcast host. Thank you for listening, and I hope these stories and conversations bring you comfort and help you feel less alone. Enjoy this episode. Hi, Shayma. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yeah, before we dive in, I just want to say how much I admire your willingness to be open about something so personal. This conversation is going to help so many women.
Yes, I agree because listening to the podcast definitely helped me. So,
I'm so glad that you found some comfort in the stories that have been told through the podcast. I'd love for you to start from the very beginning. Walk me through what was happening in your life when you found out you were pregnant.
yes. So I guess I can kind of start from last year. Back in March, I did get pregnant, and then that was a miscarriage. I think the baby stopped developing, excuse me, right around the 5-week mark. So kind of, gave myself some time with that. My fiance and I we told ourselves we'll give ourselves some time before we try to conceive again. And then to fast forward to this year, we were actually about to start trying again. And then it just so happened that I actually got pregnant. So I knew I was pregnant around the end of January. I kept getting negative tests. I was taking at-home tests. I even scheduled an appointment with my doctor. They gave me a test there. He said it was negative. So I was like, okay, I'm losing my mind because you know your body. Like I've been pregnant before, so I kind of knew. I was like, I feel like I am. Like, I don't know why I keep getting these negative tests. So after my doctor told me, I think this was on February 11th, after he said, like, okay, no, like, it's negative, you're not pregnant. I was like, all right, like, that's a bummer. Like, I'll just go about my life, and then come, the next cycle, we'll actually try again. So come March 4th, this is almost 5 weeks after that day where I felt like I was pregnant, I took another test, and it was positive. And I was like mind blown. I was like, why did it take so long for me to get a positive test? And
Did
seeing,
you,
Mhm.
sorry, not to cut you off, but I have a quick question. Did you take any other tests within those couple of weeks since early February?
After my doctor told me I wasn't, I was like, all right, I just stopped because I felt like maybe it was all in my head. And I was like, all right, well, if the doctor's telling you you're not pregnant, then you're not pregnant. So I didn't take any tests. I didn't think anything of it until March 4th. And the reason I took that test, honestly, I was bored. I was like, let me just take this test. And lo and behold, it comes out positive. Um, so we were really shocked by that. And
Yeah, rightfully so.
yeah, and I was scared, right, because of my previous miscarriage. So I didn't really have any excitement or emotions. It was just more so just fear, like, okay, am I going to miscarry again?
Mm-hmm.
So given what happened last year, I made an appointment with my doctor. They got me in as soon as possible. I think I came in like on March 12th, like a week after I got the positive. Went to the doctor. They did the transvaginal ultrasound, and they confirmed. They told me, well, the crazy thing is they told me it's intrauterine. They said, oh, yeah, they said it's, we see the gestational sac, it's in your uterus, like, you're still really early. You're about 5 weeks. There's no fetus yet. We'll have you come back in 2 weeks. And so during that time, that 2 weeks before my next appointment, I do recall experiencing like some light spotting, like brown spotting. And there was one day where I had some like really intense cramps and I had bleeding, and I tried, I was freaking out. I was like, I'm miscarrying again. What's going on? So I was just trying to stay strong until my next appointment. But there was one night where I remember waking up out of my sleep and I had this like pain on the right side, like this really intense pain, but it eventually went away. So it was just like, whatever, my appointment's almost there. We're almost there to the next appointment. So I make it to the next appointment. They do another transvaginal, and there is the fetus, there's a heartbeat. They tell me once again, everything is looking great. Like the baby's where it's supposed to be. You're right at the 8-week, mark where, everything's looking like what it should be. Scheduled all my future appointments, gave me my due date. So I'm like crying from relief, right? Because last time I never got to see an actual fetus. So this time being able to hear the heartbeat, I was like, wow, like, okay, maybe this is actually happening this time.
Right.
So
yeah, it's almost like when you first find out you're pregnant and you're just kind of waiting for what's to come and to hear the heartbeat and really just to make sure that things are going the way they're supposed to. It goes from like dreaming to reality.
Yes, I felt like I was on top of the world from just excitement and relief that okay, everything is going to be okay. And that was March 26th.
Okay.
2 days later, March 28th, I was at work, and I just had this sudden, sharp, intense pain that I've never felt in my life. And I ended up leaving work because I was like, something's wrong. Like, I need to go home. I've never felt this. So I get home, and I mean, I was like on the floor, vomiting, on the verge of passing out. And my fiance, initially, before like I was on the floor, he was thinking that, oh, well, he was like, well, maybe these are normal like pregnancy pains. And I was like, I don't know, like this really hurts. So the pain started to intensify. And I was like, I need to go to the hospital. Like something's wrong. We get there. They do, of course, the first thing I tell them is I am pregnant. I don't know what's going on. And they do a ultrasound. They just do a quick transvaginal ultrasound. And when the lady was doing the ultrasound, I noticed that she was really like fixated on the right side of my, like, instead of being more centered where the uterus would be. And I was like, that's weird. So we get back to the hospital bed, and the doctor was about to order an MRI scan. And as I'm being taken to the MRI, they stop it and they're like, oh, the doctor actually found out what's going on. We get back, and he comes out and goes, well, you're having something called an ectopic pregnancy, and it looks like there's blood in your stomach. And so my fiance and I are in disbelief because just 2 days before, these 2 prior appointments I've gone to, they told me it's in my uterus and everything is fine. So we're like, no, might be because I have gallbladder issues too. Like, it's probably my gallbladder. Like, I don't believe this. It has to be my gallbladder. And then I get transferred to a bigger hospital. It's in the same hospital, but to Mary Birch, where they deal with labor and delivery. Had the OBGYN perform another ultrasound, and she was like, hey, like there is a lot of blood in your abdomen. Like, this is really bad. I'm still in disbelief. We're still like, no, there's no way. So I fight for it. I know.
How could you not be in disbelief after having 2 ultrasounds prior saying everything's fine, baby's in the right spot?
Yes. That's why we kind of were going back and forth with them, and we said, well, let's do the MRI because we're convinced it has to be something else. They do the MRI. This is like 3 or 4 scans at this point. And the doctor comes back and she's like, I'm so sorry. Like it's not where the pregnancy is not where it should be. Your fallopian tube has burst and there's more blood in your stomach. Like it's getting really bad. And like as soon as she said that, I don't know if like my pain meds had worn off, but I just started feeling
Oh,
extremely sick again. And next thing I know, like I'm going into surgery and they're
oh,
telling me, I wake up and they tell me like, we had to remove the pregnancy and we had to remove your right fallopian tube.
mm,
And during the laparoscopy, they told me that they did find endometriosis.
okay.
So, which, it's kind of good to know now. Like, okay, is that the underlying issue as to why I had a miscarriage previously and why I'm having an ectopic pregnancy this time?
Hmm.
Um, so it was kind of just a roller coaster of emotions and then a short-lived 48 hours of joy from
Yeah,
hearing the heartbeat to, hey, we're removing the pregnancy and your fallopian tube.
it's such a 180 flip, right? I mean, gosh, I'm processing that as you're sharing it. That seems unbelievable. I mean, yeah, well, first off, I do want to say I'm really sorry that you miscarried last year
Thank
because
you.
that is also a heavy loss. And while miscarriages and ectopics are different, that grief is still really
Mhm.
traumatic.
Absolutely.
Um, and you sharing your ectopic journey and hearing everything's okay and hearing the heartbeat and then to have that sudden
Mm.
switch. I am so sorry that that happened.
Thank you. We are in disbelief ourselves, and I'm
Yeah.
glad I am able to do the podcast and talk about it. But the first few weeks after, I was in a really dark place of just like confusion and why and how
Mhm.
did this go miss? Like how had
Mhm.
I don't understand, because we looked it up and we're like, yeah, a pregnancy can't go from the uterus and then end up back in the fallopian tube like that. That's not a thing. So we're just like, where did this go? Like what happened and where did everything go wrong?
Yeah, I would go down a research spiral, just Googling everything possible. The doctor that ended up diagnosing the ectopic and doing surgery, did they give you any sort of insight on that? Or were you able to get some answers on why those other medical professionals said everything was okay?
No. So the surgery, the procedure was done at the hospital where the emergency room, and it's all in the same organization. So I did go back to the OBGYN that I initially saw that wrote in my care notes intrauterine,
Mhm.
patients moving along where she's supposed to be. I did go back to a follow-up visit with her, and I kind of went back and forth about it. Like, do I want to go back to this woman that did not catch this on an ultrasound? And I
Yeah.
almost didn't, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I went back to her just to kind of, discuss the next steps and then to also ask her, like, how did this happen? Like, we both asked her, like, how did this happen? Like, we have done our research. We don't understand how we're told that the pregnancy is in the uterus and ended up back in the fallopian tube. And I was looking at her and I could see that she had tears in her eyes. She had nothing to say. She didn't have an explanation as to how that happened, what went wrong. And all she told me was that it was something that they as a team need to discuss. So I have a feeling that maybe it was a just I don't want to say negligence, but you know how we all have our jobs, and there's some days where you go to work and you're just tired. You're out of it. I don't know, maybe you have a headache, you're arguing with your partner, and you're not fully into the job like you should be. Not
Yeah.
that that's an excuse for her. But maybe it was just one of those days where she wasn't fully paying attention and just needed to move on to the next patient. And unfortunately, I had to pay the consequences of it rupturing and me dealing with that blood in my stomach.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get what you're saying. We're all human. We all have those days where we don't show up 100%. And I want to commend you and your partner for advocating and asking questions to her, because doing those sorts of things won't help make change happen.
Mhm.
And so maybe you two going to her with your story, maybe that will make her and her team give 100% every time, so that they don't fall into this circumstance again. I think you doing that has helped other women in your spot.
Yes, and that's what I was thinking. I was just like, I would hate for this to happen to someone else. Like, I can't imagine if, say I had a flight and I'm going on this cross country flight thinking everything's okay. And then, it ruptures on the plane and there's nothing that can be done. And I mean, some women unfortunately lose their lives to this, and it's really scary. So I agree. I'm hoping that me going there and letting her know that, hey, you guys screwed up big time, and you got to pay attention, because I would hate for that to happen to someone else. It was a really, really traumatic experience that I still am in disbelief over.
Yeah, 100%. And what I told you prior to recording, the fact this happened end of March and it's only mid-May, you are so courageous for sharing your story so soon. I know I wouldn't have been able to do it this quickly because, you know, you're just continuously wrapping your head around the journey that just happened for months. And yeah, I just want to say that you're so brave for doing this.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I guess, like, I know how much time has passed, and I do realize, like, it hasn't been that long. Um I have moments, I have days where I'm okay and I can talk about it, and I have moments where the smallest thing will trigger me, whether it's a commercial or something I see out and about, and then I'm just reminded all over about everything that's happened. But I'm glad that there's people like you that have this podcast that bring awareness to it, because prior to this happening, I had no clue what an ectopic pregnancy was.
Mhm.
I had no idea.
Neither did I.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the case with a lot of us. And it's only, I don't know, my philosophy is we can bring more awareness around ectopic pregnancy the more that we speak about our stories. And I thank you and every other woman that I've had on this podcast for being part of that advocacy movement. Hi, Kirsten here. Sorry to pause the episode, but I want to share a brief ad all about therapy. Rather than trying to reinvent yourself this season, what if you took the time to understand how you already are? Most resolutions don't fail because we lack discipline. They fail because real, meaningful change is built slowly through awareness and consistency. Therapy helped me in more ways than you can imagine after my ectopic pregnancy. A big breakthrough was when I was ready to try to conceive again. My therapist helped me understand and unravel how hope and fear can coexist. It's life-changing to get insights from an expert. If you're thinking about therapy this year, do it. BetterHelp is a trusted sponsor. Joining their service was the best decision I've ever made. BetterHelp will match you with a therapist based on your preferences, their own clinical experience, and over a decade of matching expertise. Make your mental health and growth a positive focus this year. Go to betterhelp.com/ectopic or choose ectopic pregnancy support during sign-up and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Thanks for listening to the ad. Let's get back to the episode.
Absolutely. It's been your podcast. I think I found it maybe the third day after my surgery, and I took some time off work. My fiance, he still had to work, so I spent a lot of time like by myself, just processing everything, and I had a difficult time sleeping. And that's when I stumbled across your podcast, and just hearing these women's stories, like, it brought me to tears. It made me emotional, but it definitely helped to hear how they went through this, they overcame it. And, some of them got their rainbow baby, which is awesome to hear. And can only hope and pray that, God willing, that'll happen for us too. But, after learning that having, one ectopic pregnancy, that there's a high risk for another, scares me a little bit, because I don't think I want to experience that ever again.
It's really scary to think about. While there is an increased chance, it is a very small percentage. And for myself, when I was trying to conceive after my ectopic in 2022, knowing that small percentage, I kept that top of mind because I knew my end goal was I wanted a family. And I felt like it was worth it to continue to push through. I mean, even though I was scared that it could happen again, to me, it felt worth it if in the end I achieved a family of some sort. And again, I just continued to keep that small percentage top of mind that, there is hope out there. Miracles do happen every single day. And my story and some of the other women on the podcast who've gone on to have rainbow babies, even twins, that brings us all hope that it can happen.
Absolutely. And honestly, I'm so happy for you, and it's really brave of you to still have that hope and want to try again. How long, if you don't mind me asking, how long after your ectopic did you try to conceive again?
Well, with my ectopic, I had methotrexate, so I didn't have surgery.
Okay.
So I was advised to wait 3 months to try to conceive because the medication is in your system that long. And, they just advise you not to try to conceive because the drug can cause abnormalities and things like that. And then the 3 months ended, but I still didn't get my period until maybe 5 months prior to having methotrexate. So essentially, I had to wait 5 months in order to try to conceive since I wasn't getting my period and ovulating. But once that happened, my husband and I tried to conceive for several months because the following year in April is when I tested positive for my son. So altogether, it took about 13 months with that 5-month time frame of not getting my cycle. But, I think I just had to regulate, and I did do some testing to help conceive. But, you do whatever possible.
Yeah. That's awesome though that you have your son now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and getting that first cycle too after, I don't know for you, but it was really emotional for me.
Mhm.
And I wasn't expecting it for my cycle to regulate so soon after the
Mhm.
ectopic pregnancy, but I got it, I think, like 5 weeks after, and just, just seeing it and getting it was really emotional for me because it's a
Mhm.
reminder that this pregnancy didn't happen.
It is a reminder. Yeah, and it brings back moments of when you were pregnant and spotting too. It's that trigger of, oh my gosh, last time
Yeah.
you were spotting or bleeding, it was because of the
Mm-hmm.
loss.
Mm-hmm.
Question about prior to your ectopic diagnosis, did your care team ever request lab work?
Mm-mm. I think they had scheduled me for an appointment, I believe, if I remember. Yeah, I think I had an appointment scheduled in 2 weeks for lab work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And
but
where are you located?
I'm in San Diego, California.
Okay. That's so interesting. I don't think I've ever heard um, of someone not getting blood work done. I think a lot of the time, even after your first ultrasound, which is usually 5-6 weeks or so, they request blood work just to be sure that your numbers are doubling properly, just to make sure the pregnancy is viable.
No.
Hmm.
No. And the more I'm just like, I find out things, the more I'm just like concerned about my entire experience that I had. Uh,
Yeah.
Even just looking at the ultrasound images, I I shared with a few of my friends, and two of them have like a doctor that they see that they've been seeing for a long time, and one of them is friends with an OBGYN, and they shared the images, and both of their doctors were like, "Oh, well, right off the bat, I can tell you that the pregnancy is definitely not in her uterus, so I'm not sure." They're like, we can tell just by looking immediately that it's not where it's supposed to be. So I don't know how your friend was told everything's okay and sent on her way.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just, I have to do my own research and just try to understand like
Hmm.
why I didn't get lab work, why
Hmm.
it's told it's in my uterus when it's clearly not. So
Yeah.
for a normal person looking at it, I don't know. I couldn't, I didn't know.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, you guys know what you're doing? Like, yay, I got to hear a heartbeat. There's a
Right.
fetus. You're telling me congratulations. And
Yeah. I
just,
know you want to be able to trust your
Mhm.
medical team. I'm so sorry that you have these thoughts and reactions after everything happening. But I think one positive that you can take away are these things that you're learning
Mhm.
so that when you do conceive again, you have all these tools in your toolbox
Yeah.
and you can request lab work right away to be sure that the pregnancy is growing correctly.
Like the
And
HCG levels
Mhm.
double.
Yep. That's well, I mean, for one, most, at least here in Michigan, I live in Michigan. So the process in Michigan is if you do have a miscarriage, ectopic, pregnancy loss in general, when you do fall pregnant again, you get labs done right away just to be sure, because you're high risk if there's an
Yeah.
increased chance of it happening again. So I think for you, if and when you do fall pregnant, request those labs, even if your doctor, says we'll do an ultrasound at 6 weeks or whatever the regular time frame is. Ask them to do some lab work because I think you would feel a little bit more at peace as you wait.
Yes, I agree. And, the ectopic pregnancy, I get it. Like it happens, unfortunately. It's just my frustration is that I wish it was caught sooner.
Mhm.
And I think I would be able to cope with it a little bit more as opposed to how it all happened and me having to lose my fallopian tube in the
Mhm.
process of that.
Right. Right.
So, mhm.
And that's unfortunately that happens so often when women get surgery. It's because it's too late and it's too late for methotrexate to work. Depending on if you're far along or your tube ruptured already,
Mhm.
which is your case. But at least with getting lab work sooner rather than later, you can track to see if the pregnancy is healthy in order to intervene at the appropriate time.
Yes, I agree. That's definitely it's definitely good to know
Yeah.
because I mean, I know I said I was scared to conceive again, but we definitely want to, like you said, that you really want to have a family and it's worth the fight, as scared
Mhm.
as I am. And even though the not the likeliness of it, but the chance of another ectopic pregnancy happening, I don't want that to take away from me maybe having a family one day. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And I've spoken to so many awesome women like you who've lost a tube, but
Mhm.
has had success.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just because you lose a tube doesn't mean your chances decrease by 50%. Um, that's that's definitely not the case. You can conceive a healthy pregnancy.
Yes, and that's definitely great to hear because coming out of surgery and hearing that, that's where my mind went instantly is that like I'm never gonna have a baby, and this is my worst nightmare, my biggest fear. Um, but the more I read and the more research I do, even my fiance's sister was here visiting us a few weeks ago, and little did I know that she only has one fallopian tube, and she had three healthy children with one tube. So
Mhm.
definitely gives me some hope and makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, that definitely can give you some hope for the
Mhm.
future. Um, do you have any advice for someone who may be experiencing this right now?
I think my only advice, just because it's still so fresh and recent, is that with time, it will get better. to not lose hope, to not blame yourself. I think that's one huge piece of advice is don't beat yourself up. Don't blame yourself. Don't hate your body. I struggled with that for a little bit of just self-blame, given my miscarriage last year and this happening again. I definitely felt like I wasn't worthy or woman enough, or even scared that maybe my fiance was going to leave me because he really wants a family and I don't want to take that away from him. But just be kind to yourself, because your mind can definitely go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. I think that's very top of mind to a lot of us, that we blame ourselves and blame our bodies, blame what we ate 2
Mhm.
weeks ago, what we did in the gym 2 weeks ago. There's just so much that circulates in our minds, and at the end of the day, it's something that just happens. We can't prevent it. We can't make it happen. We're just that small. Well, it's not a small statistic. 1 in 80 is pretty big. It's
Wow.
more common than we think, but you know, we're a part of that number.
And I think another thing to keep in mind or remember is to not be ashamed about it. I know people don't like to talk about miscarriage or losing a pregnancy, but I think talking to people, it helps, and no one's looking at you like there's something wrong with you, and it's okay. It's just a part of your experience, something that you unfortunately had to deal with and you learn from. Move on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you felt like this, but I think relationships do change a little bit during this situation. Just, and I say that in the sense of, you realize who you can talk to about this vulnerable topic. The ones who truly care about you ask you how you're doing. And I lost some friends during my time, and it's unfortunate, but you need a good support system.
Did you feel like those friends weren't as supportive as you would have liked them to be? Or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my personality is very caring and empathetic, and I tend to think about others before myself, and I think I always expect or want my friends to be that way too. I understand that we all have different personalities, right? But I really appreciate when my friends check in on me, ask for updates.
Yeah.
I think so many people and friends may not realize how serious and traumatic it is.
Yep.
I think a lot of people may just think our lives continuously move on like everyone else's lives, but when you go through an ectopic pregnancy or pregnancy loss in general, your life stops. You're stuck in this moment of trauma, what ifs, the unknowns, all of that, while everyone's lives move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like the friends that I lost thought my life was moving on like nothing happened. And I I just felt like I deserved more than that.
Absolutely. I think certain situations kind of reveal people's just when you see how someone moves in a certain situation, it kind of makes you like, oh, like you didn't care that I went through something so traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because they don't know how traumatic it is because they didn't experience it, and to
Mm-hmm.
them, they're just thinking like, all right, well, like move on and try again. Like you'll be
Mm-hmm.
fine. But they don't understand. Like, no, I need your support. I need you to check in. I need you to call.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yeah.
just a simple text. But yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't need
It's
those friends anyways. Nope.
right. Yeah. Everything works out how it should.
Yes.
And, I think a good PSA for friends of women. Oh, hi, dog.
Sorry, my dog is on my lap.
Cute. Um, they're such a good comfort, right? During this time. Yeah. I relied a lot on my dog.
Oh,
Um, I think a good PSA for friends of women who've experienced this or gone down this path is to do research, you know, how to support a friend during pregnancy loss. And you can find a lot online, and it's, they're small things. It's a simple text, a, meal drop off,
or just come sit with me and just
yeah.
show with me. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I'm thankful that the friends I do have, for the most part, they were supportive.
Good.
But I get it. There's some people that they just don't get it. They don't
Mm-mm.
get it. And I guess I can't expect them to because
Yeah.
they didn't go through it. So they don't know.
Yeah. And that's completely okay. I'm glad that some people don't understand this journey because it's a really difficult one.
Mhm.
But I see you, Shayma. We see you, everyone listening. Your emotions are real and valid.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me and bringing comfort to those women listening.
Yes. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story and to create this platform where many women can do the same and give each other comfort and give each other hope. So I'm so glad I found your podcast. I do want to let you know it really, really helped me during those initial weeks where I was struggling really bad. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Ectopic Pregnancy Support Podcast. If you are looking for additional resources, head to ectopicpregnancysupport.com to learn more about my exclusive online support chat. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. See you next time.